Alright, so this lesson is going to be about comparing fractions. The first thing we need to remember is when we're comparing fractions, the most important part of the fraction to look at is the denominator. So if we get a simple question such as 2/5 compared to 4/5, it's really easy to compare because our denominators are the same. So remember, those give us the size of the pieces, so we look at the numerators. We've got 2 and 4. Well, obviously 4 is greater, so 4/5 is greater than 2/5. Or if we get 3/7 compared to 1/7, once again, denominators are the same. So the pieces of each fraction are the exact same size. 3 is greater than 1, so 3/7 is greater than 1/7. Where the issue comes in is when the fractions have a different denominator. So, if we're given a question such as 1/2 compared to 4/10, if we look at it just from the fraction perspective, it's no longer as simple because the 2 and the 10 are not the same. So our goal is to make them the same. First step is to look, can I change one denominator into the other using multiplication? Well, 2 can multiply by 5 to make 10. So I take my fraction and I'm going to multiply it by 5 over 5. So make sure you do the same thing to the top and the bottom because this is equal to 1. So 1 times 5 gives us 5. 2 times 5 gives us 10. 5/10. And we're going to write that up beside 1/2. And once again, now we've got 10 and 10, so the denominators are the same. 5 is greater than 4, so 1/2 is greater than 4/10. Or if we have something like 3/8 compared to 1/4, what we end up doing is we look, well, I can't turn the 8 into a 4, but I can turn the 4 into an 8 using multiplication, so I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2. Once again, because 2 divided by 2 gives us 1, we're not changing the fraction, just the way it looks. It's an equivalent fraction. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. So 2/8, well, 3/8 is greater than 2/8, and we are done. Alright, so once again, when we're doing these fractions, we look to see, can I change one denominator into the other denominator using multiplication? I'm going to put up 4 sample questions on the board. Once you are, pause the video. Once you are done, restart it and I will go over all of the solutions. Alright, so you've got your 4 questions. Make sure, once again, that you are showing all of your work, not just writing greater than or less than. So pause the video and we'll go over the solutions when you're complete. Alright, so 2/3 compared to 11/15. Well, if I look, I can change my 3 into a 15 if I multiply by 5. So I'm going to bring my 2/3 down, and I'm going to multiply that by 5 over 5. 2 times 5 would give me 10. 3 times 5 would give me 15. 10/15. Well, now if I look, I've got 11/15 and 10/15. Well, 11 is greater than 10. So 11/15 is the greater fraction. 1/5 and 7/20. Well, if I look, I can change my 5 into a 20. I multiply by 4. So bring 1/5 down. And I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4. Which 1 times 4 is 4, 5 times 4 gives me 20. So now I have the same denominator for both. And 7/20 is greater than 4/20 because they've got the same denominator. And 7/20 is greater. 3/6 and 11/18. So if I look, I have 6. 6 times 3 will give me 18. So I end up with 3/6. And I'm going to multiply that by 3 over 3. And that ends up giving me 9/18. Right over here. So 9/18 compared to 11/18. Well, 11 is greater than 9, so that one is greater. And finally, we have 10/27 compared to 1/3. Well, 3, I can multiply by 9. Will give me 27, so I bring 1/3 down. I'm going to multiply by 9 over 9, and ends up giving me 9/27. I'm going to bring that up here, 9/27. Well, 9 is less than 10, so 10/27 is the greater fraction. All right. The next issue that we might face is if we end up getting two fractions that have denominators, but we can't change one into the other. So a simple example would be 1/3 compared to 2/5. So I look at my 3. Well, I can't multiply 3 to make 5. So our goal is to make the same denominator. So what we end up doing is, the first method is skip counting. So we end up writing all the equivalent fractions. So we start our first fraction goes underneath, then our second fraction. And so 1/3, next would be 2/6, next would be 3/9, 4/12, and 5/15. Come down here to the fifths, I end up with 2/5, 4/10. Okay, none of them have the same denominator. I end up with 6/15. Okay, so they've both got a denominator of 15. So 1/3 was 5/15, and 2/5 was 6/15, and 6/15 is greater than 5/15, so 2/5 is greater. Although this gets to be a really long, tedious method, it will work every time if you really get stuck. But if I wanted to compare the same question a little bit quicker, if we look, we found the first, second, third, fourth, fifth term for 1/3. So we ended up taking 1/3 and we multiplied it by 5 over 5 to get 5/15. And we had 2/5. Well, that was the first, second, third term, so we multiplied that by 3 over 3 to get 6/15. So if we look at this, how do we know to multiply 1/3 by 5, and how do we know to multiply 2/5 by 3 over 3? Well, if we look at 1/3, we multiplied it by 5. That came from this denominator. Then, if we're looking at 2/5, that came from this denominator. So when we're multiplying and the two denominators are different and we can't turn one into the other one, the next step would be to look to multiply the two fractions. So if I give another sample here, let's go 2/5 compared to 4/9. So once again, I look, can 5 be turned into 9? No, it can't. So the next step is to look, okay, so I'm going to multiply, I'm going to have my 2/5. The other denominator is 9. So 2/5, I'm going to end up multiplying by 9 over 9. And I'm going to, underneath, write 4/9. And I'm going to end up multiplying that by the other denominator, which is 5. So I'm going to multiply that by 5 over 5. And for 2/5, I end up with 2 times 9 is 18. 18 45ths, and 20 45ths. So if I look, I'm looking for the greater one. Well, 20 is greater. So 4/9 is the greater fraction. All right. I'll give you one more example of this. So if we look, we go 3/4 compared to 4/7. So once again, a 4 cannot be turned into a 7 using multiplication. So I end up, we got here 3/4. I look at my other denominator. The other denominator is 7. So I'm going to multiply by 7 over 7. And I end up getting 21 28ths. And I end up with 4/7. And I look at the other denominator, which is 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4, which ends up giving me 16 28ths. 21 is greater than 16, so 3/4 is greater. So that one is greatest. All right, I'm going to give you 4 sample questions again. Once you've written them down, pause the video, complete the question, and then I will go over all of the solutions. All right, so here are 3 sample questions. Pause the video, write them down. Once you have completed the questions, resume the video and I will go over the solutions. Alright, so our first question is 2/3 and 3/4. Once again, you always want to see if there's a shortcut. Can I turn a 3 into a 4? Nope, that's not going to work. So I'm going to start 2/3, 3/4. Well, 2/3, I look at the other denominator, that's 4, so I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4. 3/4, I'm going to look at the other denominator, that is 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3 over 3. That ends up with 8/12 and 9/12. Well, 9 is greater, so that means that 3/4 is greatest. 4/5 and 8/9. Okay, you can't turn a 5 into a 9. So 4/5, I'm going to multiply by the other denominator. And 8/9, I'm going to multiply by the other denominator, which is 5. And I end up with 4 times 9 gives me 36. 5 times 9 gives me 45. 8 times 5 gives me 40. 9 times 5 gives me 45. Well, 40 is greater than 36, so 8/9 is the greater fraction. All right, and 5/11 compared to 3/8. Well, I can't turn an 8 to 11. So 5/11, so I'm going to multiply by that by the other denominator, which is 8, which gives me 40 88ths. And 3/8, I'm going to multiply by 11 11ths. 3 times 11 is 33. 8 times 11 is 88. The denominators are once again the same. So 40 is greater than 33, so 5/11ths is the greater fraction. All right, there's one last thing to look for when comparing 2 fractions, and that is if there is a lowest common multiple of the denominators. So the example for that, once again, this is more of a shortcut. If you can't see these, that's okay. When we get to addition and subtraction, you will need to do more simplifying. But if I give you a number such as 5/6 compared to 3/4, so our first step, once again, would have been that we would have multiplied by 5/6 by 4 over 4 and 3/4 by 6 over 6. However, that would have given us a denominator of 24. If we're looking at these, we want to look what is the lowest common multiple. So it's the lowest number that works for 6 and 4. Using our multiplication, we would know that 6 goes into 12, as does 4. And so we know we're going to have 5/6 times something gives us 12. And 3/4 times something also gives us 12. As long as we know what both goes in. 6 times 2 gives us 12, so I'm going to multiply the fraction by 2 over 2, which would give me 10/12. And I'm going to multiply 4 times 3 gives me 12, so my numerator is 3 here, and 3 times 3 would give me 9. And so once again, the greatest fraction at that point, if we look, 10 is greater than 9, so 5/6 is greater. If I give another one, if we go with 3/8 compared to, let's use 1/6 again. Let's use just 1/6. So if I look, what is the lowest number that 8 and 6 go into? Well, I know 24 works. And so I'd end up with 3/8 multiplied by a number gives me a denominator of 24. And I know that 1/6 times a number would give me a denominator of 24. Well, 8 times 3 gives me 24. So it'll be multiplied by 3 over 3 would give me 9/24. And 6 times 4 would give me 24. And so I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4. And 9 24ths is greater than 4 24ths. So 3/8 is greatest. All right, so I'm going to give you 3 different questions, one of each kind. So once again, pause once the questions are up, write them down. Once you have completed them, resume the video and I will go over the answers. All right, so we have 4/5 compared to 2/3, 1/10 compared to 7/40, 1/6 compared to 4/9. So once again, these are all 3 types of questions. If you don't see any of the shortcuts, that's okay no matter what. If you end up multiplying the 2 denominators, that will always work. Or if you multiply by the other denominator, it will always work, but there are shorter ways. So pause the video, complete your questions, and resume the video once you are done. All right, so first question, 4/5 compared to 2/3. Well, I can't turn a 3 into a 5. I don't see a shortcut with this one, so the lowest number that would work is 15, so I end up with 4/5. I'm going to multiply by the other denominator, which is 3, and 2/3. I'm going to multiply by the other denominator, which is 5. So I end up with 12/15 and 10/15. Well, 12/15 is greatest, so 4/5 is greater. All right, so here I've got 1/10 and 7/40. Well, I can turn a 10 into a 40 if I multiply by 4. So I'll have 1/10, multiply by 4 over 4, and I get 4/40. Well, 4 is less than 7. So 7/40 would be greater. All right, so that leaves our last one, which means there is a shortcut on this one. Now, if you didn't see the shortcut, that's okay. You can still complete it just by multiplying 1/6 by 9 over 9 and 4/9 by 6 over 6. But we should also know that 6 and 9 both go into 18. So if I look, I would take 1/6 multiplied by something gives me a denominator of 18. And I've got 4/9 would give me a denominator of 18. Well, 6 times 3 would give me 18, so it'll be 3 over 3, and 9 times 2 gives me 18. And so 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 3 is 3. So 4/9 is greater, as 8 is greater than 3, so that one would be greater. Now I'm just going to show you one more time that if I didn't see this shortcut, here, that would be okay. It actually would still work. So if I had gone 1/6 and 4/9, I'd multiplied by 9 over 9, I would get 9/54. Multiplied by 6 over 6, I would end up with 24/54. And obviously 24 is greater than 9. The only thing is when we get to addition and subtraction, you would need to be doing more simplifying, but you would still arrive at the exact same answer. So once again, there's going to be some practice worksheets in the folder. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to message me or come see me during class.